Hey, today we are experimenting. Exploring and experimenting with loose abstract watercolors and adding patterns with pens and gold paint. Stick around and let's see how this all comes together. First off, I need a color palette to use, and I did a blind pull of a card from Volume 2 of The Color Cubes by Sarah Renae Clark. And I pulled card number 380, and that card is way out of my color palette comfort zone. I realized that I need to expand my color range. These cards are more my style, but I want to stretch, explore, and expand my repertoire. So I'm going to be using a whole bunch of different things. All of the materials are listed in the description below. I'm dividing my watercolor paper up into roughly 2-inch squares, and I wish I hadn't used this watercolor pencil. It's too dark, it's too heavy, and it made kind of a mess on the paper. I'll show you the trick that I use to make it all come together at the end. I'm using the Core watercolor paints. These were in tubes, and I dropped them into my pan probably 2 or 3 years ago and let them dry. Then I can just re-wet them and use them. I used my round number 8 watercolor brush and dropped water into each of the squares to let them start soaking in. And now I'm going to be taking and adding the watercolor to my squares. I am keeping it loose. I am not staying on any square for more than a couple seconds at a time, dropping colors in. And I'm really not trying to do any type of composition here, because these are each individually mini abstract watercolors. So I'm working my way around. I am dropping things kind of randomly into the squares. I'm putting 2 or 3 colors per square, and some of them I might put more, and some of them I might put less. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to be really specific here, but I'm just going to let this go and fill these spaces with color. After they are filled with color, we are going to want to let them dry completely so that we can come back in with our pens and the acrylic paint to add our patterns and our little mixed media touches. So enjoy watching the color explode on the page. Remember, I'm experimenting, I'm exploring, or like I said at the beginning, I'm explorementing. These colors are so pretty and they're making me really happy. Now I do have some puddles on here and I'm just going to tip my paper and allow the puddles to sort of run and blend and glaze over. It's almost making a second layer of paint on many of these little squares. Then I'm going to lay it flat and let it dry. All right, here's where I fix the page since I had totally messed up by using that dark brown watercolor pencil. If you look at it, the page looks kind of gritty and grungy and gross. I'm using a Tombow ABT watercolor marking brush marker, and this is the N25 color, so it's almost black. And I'm just coloring between all of the margins, between all of the little paintings. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad that this thing happened this way, because by putting this black border and leaving some of those little white edges around, they look like little tiles that have been almost cut out and glued down onto a black piece of paper. You could cut them out and glue them down onto a black piece of paper if you wanted to, and that could be a lot of fun. Now it's time to go in and start adding some patterns. First up, I am using a white Signo Uniball pen, and I love this pen. Now, on top of watercolor, some color will bleed into the pen, and that's just the nature of it. I don't mind that because it sort of blends the pen a little bit down in. I am going through and just letting my imagination run, thinking about patterns that would be easy to translate bigger or smaller, and filling all 20 of these squares in. Tumbling triangles. I do the triangles a couple different ways with the white pen, and then I do it with the black pen, and then I add some gold. Yes, there is a little bit of gold added at the end just because I'm trying to, again, step out of my comfort zone, use that gold sparingly, but with allowing it to have some impact onto my art. I am not worried about making all of my patterns perfect. I am not gritting it out. I am not drawing it on with a pencil. I am letting my imagination sort of run along here. That's one of the things that we need to let ourselves do. Building these boxes. Oh my gosh, I love building these boxes. They look like little houses or like skyscrapers. Super easy way to give some impact to your abstract art without drawing a building. You can have the impact of a building. Sometimes repeating a shape that you find in the abstract is really cool. I could have left this without adding the extra little lines on the inside of pears. What this does is it's almost like a whole bunch of railroad tracks or little roads all running together. But if I had left it with just the white lines, it looked kind of like ripples of water. Cool thing about patterns is they can kind of impact your emotional response to a piece of artwork by recalling something from earlier in your life, or this diamond pattern, that back and forth 3 little lines, reminds me of the diamond plate that was on the bottom of the doors in the school that I went to. Little things, it's like, oh yeah, that was a happy, fun time. Taking and drawing a pattern in, like those white dots, I did them linear, I did them in a scatter. You've got all kinds of ways to use your patterns to create a mood or a feeling in your artwork. Okay, this one. I am a person who sews a lot, and I wanted to see what would happen if it looked like I was stitching fabric down and making like little applique shapes and things like that with just the running stitch type of line. I love this. I will be using this more. Switching to that black brush pen. The brush pen is really cool because it releases a little bit of the control that you've got. I'm not really great with brush pens, so by using it on a whole bunch of different boxes here, the little tiny paintings, by using it this way, it's giving me the opportunity to explore the pen and to find out how it works. Because, you know, it's not really precision tool time here with a brush pen. I think I'm a little too heavy-handed. I push a little hard, and so I can't get those really crisp points. But I do get line variation, and that's one of the things that you want to have when you're doing abstract. You don't want all of your lines to be exactly the same, because those different line weights add pops of surprise and serendipity to your artwork. I am really enjoying this whole doing little bits of stuff on individual squares, but then sort of zooming out and looking at the whole page as a composition. I feel like I was pretty good about moving my patterns around and changing things up. This asemic writing just is making my heart so happy. And I'm not as keen on putting these plants on here. I wish I hadn't, but it's a design element that I do like to use in other projects. I just like to use them much bigger. And being small like this on this tiny square wasn't as effective for my mind. I am exploring how to make little trees, and I will probably do a video. Do you want a video on all kinds of different little doodle trees? Let me know by leaving a comment below in the comment section. And let's start a conversation on what things you want to learn how to doodle and draw as patterns. And now it's time for more ink or paint, because I'm going to go in here with my white Uniball pen again and start adding some details to some of the black box areas. I find that black is so heavy, and if maybe I had used a dark gray pen for my brush pen, it would have lightened it up just a little bit, but I did want some black on here. I wanted that bold stroke, but then I needed to go back in with some white because some of the things were just a little too bold. Mixing up your patterns. So now I'm taking some dots and putting it on top of some of those bold lines. All things that you can do. You're not stuck. Just because you have drawn something or doodled something one way, that doesn't mean you can't go back in and refine and adjust and add. And if something is too overwhelming, you can take paint and spread it over it. And I'll do that in just a second. Now this is just Deco Art Extreme Gold Metallic or something like that. It's a super, super shiny metallic gold. And I put it into one of those little fine tip, needle tip type bottles so you can squeeze the paint out. You can draw with it, you can write with it, you can make dots, you can make lines. You have all kinds of opportunities for different things with this little bottle of magic. I like going in and I added some gold dots on top of the little black dots on my swirly little wreath type lines. I will be taking and drawing a line of this on the that dot grid that's right next under my hand right now. But on that dot grid, I'm going to put a line of this gold and I'm going to use a palette knife on it. Oh my gosh. You can use a cut up piece of credit card. You could use a little anything that's just a flat straight edge that you can swish the paint across. I'm really excited to share that part with you. So here we go. Draw a line, grab something that's a sharp edge. This is just a plastic palette knife, and slide across once. Don't go back and touch it again. Just let it go. But look at the effect it has. Now I'm doing the same thing down here on these little boxes with just the leftover paint that was on the palette knife. And I'm taking the bullet end now of that Tombow marker and just doing some random, very loose scribbles. I plan on doing a whole bunch more of these, and remember, it's just paper and a little bit of paint. Nothing is going to happen to you if you don't like what you've done. It's okay. I really want to touch a couple things. One, it's easier to do this if you break your paper into small sections. Let the paint and water do their thing. Add repeating patterns and try to keep 1 to 3 patterns per square. Don't do a whole ton of them in each of the squares because it totally overwhelms the art. And if you want to kick it up a notch, always add a little bit of gold or silver or copper. It will make your artwork sing. Thank you so much. I hope that you like this. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and do something creative. Take care of yourself so you can take care of those you love. I'll see you back here again soon. Bye-bye.